travel best. He is a beloved friend and my companion for this journey.
Now you do detect a little flicker, because in that conversation, you said the word writer and writing probably 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And each time you saw what I call in my business a micro expression. You see just that flicker of distaste each time you said the word writer. And when she greets Banny, it's not quite chilly, but it's very formal.
Hmm.
I will respond in kind, formally. Give her a kiss on the back of the hand. Good to meet you, Constance.
She doesn't even look at Banny while he kisses her hand. She's back to you and just chattering a mile a minute.
It's not. Is it proper to introduce professional servants?
Not generally.
I will not introduce Bjorn
Formally.
or Robin, but I will nod to the staff to see to their needs.
Mr. Joyce seems to understand. He's clearly a high-ranking professional servant. He says, then I will leave you in the good company of Lady Ismay, and I will see immediately to your needs. And he's looking at the 3 of you.
Look back at the bags.
I grab your arm before you get a chance to become one of the servants and drag you with me as we angle toward the Lord and Lady of the Manor.
The 2 of you and Constance, she's got you arm in arm, head up the stairs, and behind you you hear, and I'm Bjorn.
I'm Bjorn.
Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Mr. Joyce instructs the footman to take the bags to the rooms. You know which ones. And please see that our guests, he does not say anything about you being staff. He says, please see that our guests are well taken care of. He looks at Bjorn and asks him to step aside for a moment. He calls him over and asks the Viking. He tells him that he's a little unsure. Should the 2 of you be dining with the family, meeting the family? Would you be more comfortable in the servants' quarters, dining with us? What is your preference? I don't mean to insult. He does not sound like he has a trace of a Tyr accent. But then he's the only servant you've heard speak. Bjorn just kind of shrugs. He wasn't given any kind of instruction this way. So Mr. Joyce just wings it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's probably not going to be officiating the crowd. He's going to have to manage on his own.
This is a very large, bright, and formal area with chairs lining the walls. The drapes are closed against the nighttime. There are multiple doorways and archways leaving this place. There is a crackling fireplace, chandelier that's just enormous. The chandelier feels as big as your apartment, Blanca. And it's clear that this is the kind of room that doubles as a ballroom. There's a small bar that's been set up in one corner with one of the liveried footmen. This one is in a red jacket. And there's a lot of people in here. Some are your age, some are a shade younger, some are older. You've never met any of Constance's family because you just knew each other through school. You heard about everybody except you have met Lyle. And Lyle is absolutely in here, looking as handsome as ever.
Holy crap.
Constance practically drags you into the room and says, "She's here, everybody. She's here. My friend is here." She gives you another great big hug and kisses you on the cheek. And you hear an older woman, "Constance, mind yourself."
Who said that?
That is coming from a woman who looks to probably be in her 70s. She's got blue hair piled high on her head. Did we lose Keith?
Just for a moment, he was having some issues with video.
Sorry.
He's back.
A woman in her 70s.
Yep. Hang on, I'll give you a description. Constance whispers, "I'll introduce you to everyone. That's Grandmama. She is Grandpa Ismay's wife, my grandmother. She is the lady of the house." She goes, "Grandmama, this is Blanca Bess. Blanca Bess, Florence Ismay. You may call her Grandmama." And Florence looks down and says, "You may not." She looks all of 75, very well cared for, very expensive clothing, expensive jewels, very pinched, stern-looking face. And she's into her cups. She's got a wine glass that looks more like a brandy snifter. And she empties it in great big draining amounts, and she gestures while she talks. And it slops out onto the floor, and the servant is right there to clean it up and refill her glass.
Bow to Duchess Ismay and address her as such.
Manny, how are you handling all this?
I am staying quietly at her side and
Making your manners with everybody that you meet?
Yeah, mimicking anything that Blanca focuses in on, I'm going to focus in on. I am following her lead to the hilt. Also bending wherever she bends and so forth.
I'm mindful of his reticence to replay in this game, and I am trying to aid in his assimilation, if I can do so.
Assimilation. I can do society roles in order to accommodate. I have not been in a space this dense when it comes to society in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that I'm doing a fair job with a 21.
Yep.
I aid him with a 25, which should
nice.
give him +2.
You feel comfortable enough that you don't think you're going to make any big boo-boos. And
Hey,
Constance,
Duchess.
hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
You're some fine-looking wool.
Well,
I bet you was something before electricity.
you got a little scratch on you.
Did you like the back seat, or did you suck cock on horseback? Oh! Constance leads you to a gentleman who is standing there in a full military formal uniform with a plaid kilt, black, green, and dark blue. He has a sword at his hip. His chest is so heavy with medals, it looks like he's about ready to topple over. He looks to be about 50 years old. And as you walk towards them, Constance, she knows how to navigate this stuff, so she slows your pace so she can whisper in your ear who you're about to meet. And she introduces her Uncle James Ismay. Everyone calls him the Colonel. He is Grandpapa's eldest son. He's my uncle, and he manages the family fortune. She introduces you. This is my dear, dear friend, Blanca Bess, and she seems to be settling down a little bit. The giddiness is toning down. You're not sure if she got it out of her system or if Grandmama had something to do with it. Banny, you can't help but notice that Grandmama's eyes follow the two of you everywhere you go through the room.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
She introduces you, and he gives you a very formal head bob, takes your hand, kisses it, enchanted. So good to finally meet you. Constance has told us so much about you.
Give a courtly curtsy and use my training. It's wonderful to meet you and address him with his formal title. Looking at the medals on there, does it look like he's a colonel? I'm not really versed in military history, but I do know genealogy very well.
I'm going to give you a base lore check because you've been around military people.
If I see her hesitate even in the slightest, I will jump in with my own military background.
I do hesitate.
Okay. Colonel.
How did you do, Banny?
I did I'm going to say society or diplomacy.
Do you have a lore? Do you have a military lore?
Oh, military lore. I would expect that I would have it pretty down pat, but if I
give yourself just a basic lore check.
23 is what I would if I'm going off of society as part of that, I would say 23 as a lore check.
You needed a 20. Did you manage that, Blanca?
Yes.
Yeah, if I'm using my genealogy, even with a -2, I'm well into 26, 24 range.
So you've got a pretty good idea, even though you don't have a military background. Banny, you've got it closer. You recognize this as the dress uniform of Her Majesty's Black Watch.
Oh.
It's a very highly decorated unit. You see among his ribbons that he was an infantry commander in the Great War. You see that he has a peacekeeper ribbon for service in Belfast with 3 oak clusters, and you know that that's tours of service. You see that there is a medal for both the Zulu and the Boer War in South Africa. The man looks quite competent.
Yeah. When I see him, I tap on Blanca's shoulder and just bow deeply and say, Colonel.
I will say it louder and bow in honor of his station and his stature in the family.
He leans forward and lowers his voice, probably so that Grandmama can't hear it, and says, "Enough of that, your lordship rubbish, and that's the last time you bow to me." He reaches out and grips your hand, Banny. Did you serve?
Yes, I did. I was just a scout, but Great War. Let the troops.
We'll have that conversation later.
I insist.
Constance spins you away toward a girl who she's not too pretty. She's about your age. She looks very awkward, introverted. She goes, "This is Cousin Hyacinth. This is this is Uncle James's daughter. She's a bit special and slow."
How old is she?
She's about your age, 17, 18, maybe 19.
Greet her formally, but don't bend any station to her.
She only takes your hand if you take hers first. She
do.
Makes absolutely no eye contact and says, "Please, Excuse me. And she starts to flee toward the door, and then she stops, and she rushes back to you and grips both of your hands tightly and whispers, "Don't open the box." And she lets go. And
I grab her hands before she can escape, letting her just struggle for a minute. I want to see how legitimate her affliction is and how deep her desire to escape. And I will put the clamps on her and test her strength.
Let's see your perception. Well, first let's have your unarmed grapple.
Okay, unarmed. 23.
You grab her. She feels like bird bones underneath her skin. She's so skinny, almost emaciated. Now do your perception.
Can I use deception to try to see if she's deceiving me versus perception?
Yeah. Yep, if that's what you're looking for.
28.
She feels quite legitimately terrified and awkward. And nobody else in the room seems to be reacting to her weirdness.
I will whisper in her ear, "Your secret is safe with me," and release her.
It's dark and terrible. Don't open it. Don't open it. And then she flees. That's about when you hear a woman who doesn't wait to be introduced. She comes sliding up. If possible, she is a older, more attractive version of Constance. She's a little bit taller. She's a little bit better filled out in all the right places. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. She could be a film star just like Constance at any time. And you don't even need an introduction to know that this is Victoria Ismay Downing, Constance's older sister, who has tormented her as long as you can remember. She's the one that suggested that perhaps Constance's vision of the gremlin was her going mad, just like dear Aunt Rose. And she was also the one mentioned in the letter about her perfect husband and her perfect sister and her perfectly beastly little children. Victoria comes forward and absolutely expects to be kowtowed too. She's imperious, and she's actually a little intimidating.
I want her to extend that intimidation and push me around emotionally because I'm not going to bend to her.
And she does it once, and as soon as she sees that you don't fight back, she gets even a little bit more caustic. She says, "So this is the one that taught you all your bad habits, Constance, dear?" She looks you up and down like you are something she sees in a shop window and decides, "I wouldn't be caught dead in that," and turns away and looks at a man who he absolutely does not have a chin. Yeah, he's incredibly well dressed. He's got his hair all slicked over to one side, and she goes back to whatever conversation she was having with him, and she says, "If she ruins that gown, I'll have her sacked." And the guy's there with a martini. He's like, "Yes, dear." He just sips it, and he won't even make eye contact with her.
I am going to giggle a little. Just cock my head a little bit and then just hold it after that. Just
Victoria's head snaps around like a barn owl, and she looks daggers at you and then drinks her wine and looks at you over the glass. Constance, close to your ear, Blanca says, "And of course now you've met Victoria."
I believe I've heard of Victoria even before our introduction.
Yes, yes. I may have mentioned her once or twice. And I would introduce you to her husband, Prescott, but he's just a bore. There's no need to know him. He's just from a good family. Off we go. She takes you across the room to a young man. He looks like he's about 19. He's in his evening wear, smoking a cigarette in a holder. He's got a shit-eating, I own the world and everything in it look on his face. He's got a prep school tie that you recognize because of your breeding. One of the best schools in Ismay. And she says, "This is Cousin Martin. This is Uncle James's son. He goes to Cambridge. Martin, this is my dear, dear friend, Blanca Bess. And you, even though he never leaves your eyes, you feel yourself being undressed as he grins at you. And he reaches out and takes your hand and kisses it and lingers just a half a second too long before.
I let him because I'm using that opportunity to dress him down in return.
Oh, he likes that.
But he will feel a little befuddled for the exchange.
No doubt. What are you doing to him?
I got to get back to my spell list. One moment. I am Touch of Idiocy.
Wow.
It only lasts a brief period of time, but I want him to feel shaken in the encounter.
Just making people feel stupid left and right. I guess.
I'll give you the details. 1 second.
That's lovely. Lovely.
You dull the target's mind. The target must attempt a will save. A success, the target is unaffected. Failure, the target is stupefied 2. Critical failure, stupefied 4.
He just got a failure, so he's stupefied too.
Okay, so stupefied gives him stupefied PQR. Your thoughts and instincts are clouded. Stupefied always includes a value. You take a status penalty equal to the value on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma-based checks and DCs, including will saving throws, spell attacks, spell DCs, yada, yada, yada. Anytime you attempt to cast spells while stupefied, it disrupts you, etc. I'm really just trying to take him off the game.
Yeah, put him off balance.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
In game terms, stupefied 2.
Mm-hmm.
How different is that from being a drunken frat boy asshole who needed his family money to get him into Cambridge and daddy has to keep him out of jail?
It's probably an accelerant to the condition he's used to and feels quite normal for him. He probably thinks he's had an extra drink and doesn't remember consuming it.
Oh, he's probably convinced himself that that you're into him.
Oh.
She leads you away. She goes, and now you've met Cousin Martin. No doubt you'll meet him again. He tends to get a little handsy. Mm-hmm. She looks around and she says, "Grandmama, where is Grandpapa?" And the grand dame, drinking her wine, says, "He's in his study, dear. Isn't he always in his study?" She ignores that and leads you over to a corner where the piano's being played, and you recognize dashing and handsome Lyle Ismay, 26 years old, without a doubt your junior high heartthrob. You remember him as a sportsman who was good at everything: sports, piano, chess, poetry, ad nauseum, charming, plays polo, rugby, tennis, he cruises, golf, darts, billiards, he gambles, he can tell you the vintage of a whiskey when he picks it up. He's incredibly handsome. He likes to race horses. He is a big money playboy. And when he smiles at you, it's like one of those cheesy toothpaste commercials. The only thing that's missing is the sparkle and the ding. And he stops playing at once and stands up and glides toward you and takes your hand. Dearest Blanca, I have been waiting for your arrival. So glad you're here.
Using the lie to me feat, I want to kind of peel back the layers of his veneer.
Go ahead.
I'm going to be observing this whole encounter. I'm very interested to see how this goes.
I didn't roll very well.
I kind of think that Blanca is still a bit smitten by Lyle.
I think that roll confirms that, in that she's overwhelmed by his attraction, although she's flashing back to a train ride into the Keurig Union that didn't end well, and that tempers a little bit of her enthusiasm.
Yep.
With the bride and the suitor who just sucked?
Yeah. Shit. Why does his name escape me? Chevalier.
Oh, Chevalier. Oh, okay. I thought you meant
Dr.
the other
Chevalier.
Yeah.
Dr.
Constance
wasn't Dr.
tells
Chevalier.
Lyle that he's just a big flirt, and she has important people to introduce her friend to, and Lyle laughs, and his laugh is charming, and you can tell they've got that playful brother-sister thing that goes back and forth. As she moves you off, she goes, "Don't get too attached, darling. He seems to be taken with some local girl, some trollop that the family would never accept, but I'm sure that he's just sowing his wild oats, as the colonel would say."
Allow some flummoxing, or just his approach has an effect for certain.
Danny, you find yourself suddenly standing next to Prescott Downing, and Prescott introduces himself. Prescott Downing.
I will reach a hand forward.
If he were to try to shake Bjorn's hand, Bjorn would probably crush all 32 bones just out of spite because of the fish grip.
Yeah.
He gives you a fish grip. He is your perfect snobbish Brit. He has no chin. It looks like he's always had money, never gone hungry for a single day. And he kind of leans in like he's telling a secret. And he says, Did you happen to see pork bellies this morning?
I didn't.
So they're up. I'm positioned. You should think about it. Yeah.
I'd consider it.
Mr. Elden?
Elkind is the name. Benny Elkind.
Mr. Elkind. Yes. And where did you prep?
I actually didn't. I went into the war. I found my hard knocks from there. I am completely uncivilized. But it is good to meet you.
Oh, you don't say. I went to Oxford, and of course I'm still part of the Oxford Club. And,
How much does that cost?
We just couldn't believe it. Lord Charles Crittenden showed up at last year's OC Yule party wearing the previous year's Hugo Boss from 1933. So very out of step with him, yes?
It sounds like it. It Sounds like it.
Well, where do you position yourself in the market?
I actually position myself right at the end of the market. Me and the
Yes.
market, we are a flowing ocean. We don't really.
He turns away while you're in mid-conversation and wanders off into the room with his cocktail.
I go, oh, thank God, and then turn back to what is
Look,
at hand.
give Banny a little bit of a look like, I need you to try harder.
I lean back a little bit and put my hand on my mouth and just go,
Does Banny smoke?
I do. I will smoke. I don't. It for whatever reason it's not addictive, but I will smoke cigars all day long, and I will smoke cigarettes if that is what's available.
If you didn't, you'd probably be the only one in the room who doesn't in 1935. Good Lord. And filterless.
Filterless. Just
Find
breathe.
You just light a bonfire and breathe it in.
Oh yeah, that's the good stuff.
angle towards Ismay with Constance in tow, and
which Ismay?
Yeah,
James, the military kilt.
Ah, yes.
And
James seems to be standing off by himself. He's drinking a martini as well, and he's just watching, drinking. He's not smoking.
Make a note to him. My friend Benny's cigarettes got wet on our journey. You wouldn't happen to have something he could partake in?
Is he? Does he enjoy cigars?
Absolutely.
Perhaps we can accommodate him.
He might enjoy some escape from all this pomp and circumstance if you can afford it.
She secrets me off.
Constance, why don't you take your friends to, well, at least take Mr. Elkin to the study, and I'll be along directly once I've made my excuses. And, perhaps my father will be there. It would be good for you to introduce yourself. Don't expect much in return. You'll see what I mean.
Brush Banny's hand before it goes with a message spell.
He pulls you into him. A word of advice. Don't mention the ship. We do not talk about it. He lets you go and heads back for a refill at the bar.
Well, I'm going with Constance and Blanca. If they move to the study, I follow them, correct? I'm not following him.
Constance, or actually, I'm going to keep all these names straight. Blanca, what are you leaning toward? What are you up to at the moment?
Well, Constance wants some alone time after she's made all the introductions. I'm going to allow her that.
She goes one more round, and then we can chat. She looks over at one of the footmen and says, "Declan, please show Blanca's good friend, Mr. Elkin, to the study." And the footman gives her a head nod and looks at you. "If he'll come with me, sir." It's the first servant you've heard speak other than Mr. Joyce. He leads you out of the room and deeper into the halls of the house.
As soon as I move out of the room, it is going to be a visible just kind of almost curl in on myself for a moment and then walk normally behind him. I'm doing it a little bit for him, and I'm doing it for me too.
He gives you no reaction whatsoever. He's the stone-faced servant. I need you to do a perception against a 28.
I get it. That's a 30.
I'll get right back to you. In the ballroom, Blanca, you are spun around once more, and you do realize that this is all part of the proper etiquette. The first is the introduction. The second one is the expected 5 minutes of chit-chat. So you know you've got another hour ahead of you as you meet these folks, unless they release you quickly. You spend just the right amount of time with Uncle James. And of the group, you're not sure if it's because you've been around Banny so much and been around Bjorn so much, but he just feels more grounded than everybody else, even though he's clearly part of all this. He just seems to have it together. You're not sure if that's his military side or not. You spend an agonizing 5 minutes with Prescott Downing, who asks you if you have a position in on the market, and then waves it off as if he's a fool for even suggesting that a woman wouldn't be interested in something like that. And then after he tells a few more Oxford Club stories that about put you to sleep, he runs out of things to say, and the two of you just kind of stare at the floor until your 5 minutes is over. And then Constance escapes with you. Cousin Hyacinth left. Cousin Martin is still grinning like a fool, only now he's grinning over at the piano. And Constance says, "We'll kill two birds with one stone."
What do you mean?
Brings you over to the two of them so that you can chit-chat with Lyle and with Martin. Martin, he might as well be wearing a T-shirt that says "I'm a lech." You have a good bead on this guy. You've met boys like this your whole life. You knew them when they were in short pants, and you knew them when they were in prep schools, and they get whatever they want. They're the ones that cheat on exams, and their daddies get them off if they get caught. They drive the best cars and have very little regard for all the things that they're given. They brag about the schools that they go to, even though they have no respect for the schools whatsoever. So you've got a pretty good idea about Cousin Martin. You find out that he is into lacrosse, fencing, and squash. And although he brags about it, it's nothing compared to Lyle's casual resume. And every time Cousin Martin goes off on a bragging tangent, you see Lyle kind of hides a bit of a grin and looks at the piano and tinkles away at the keys. And you can tell that he's probably got a pretty good idea about his cousin as well. Lyle has a hard time keeping his eyes off of you, though, Blanca, and that seems to be mutual. He does not feel lecherous. He looks almost wistful, I guess is the best way to put it. He asks you, Blanca, do you ride?
It's been a few years, but yes.
Oh. Not to sound too pretentious, but the horses on the estate aren't fit to feed the kennels. I should have brought my Arabians. But we could find a nice gentle mare for you. Perhaps we'll have a ride.
I think you underestimate me, Lyle. I do prefer a spirited steed.
Enjoy stallion on occasion, do we?
Smile and look towards the piano as though it's a distraction that's more calling.
And he goes from classical to like a quick few bars of honky tonk.
Okay.
You eventually leave the boys at the piano and make your way back to you're headed toward the Duchess. but you are intercepted by Victoria. Victoria comes oozing in and looks Constance up and down and says, "Isn't that rag from last year, dear?" You see that Constance colors immediately. She puts up no fight against her older sister, just internalizes it.
Hey, we just passed through London on the way here, and I saw this name a prestigious window front as the latest of fashions. In fact, point out something that might be a year out of step. The designer Beaujolais has just brought this back in for this season.
I haven't heard that he released anything new, and I'm in London constantly. We have homes there, you know. Where do you live, dear?
It appears a season has passed since you've had opportunity to see the fashions in London, and just move on to a new conversation.
You almost see this wicked glitter of pleasure in Victoria's eyes because it seems she may have found a sparring partner. And the two of you exchange some riposts and some attacks, and
we will dance.
You do a little bit of verbal fencing as only women can do. Especially upper crust women.
I will take the measure of her as best I can, using my perception, my magical attributes. I want to study her nature as deeply as possible to be ready for round 2, because it's coming.
Well, probably the most telling part of all that is when your friend, perhaps emboldened by your presence, makes a mention of Victoria's children. Are the children all asleep? Did you tuck them in, Victoria, or did the nanny do it again? And you see the feline come out of Victoria. But you also see that look of disgust when the children are even mentioned.
Interesting. We didn't see any children associated with Victoria, right?
You haven't seen any children in the house at all, but then again, it's late. So before you and Victoria can claw each other's eyes out, the Duchess intercedes and says, "Victoria, darling, your husband is falling asleep. It's bad form." So she slides away, but gives you one last venomous look over her shoulder. And the Duchess is deep in her cups now. So, Constance says you're from Zurich or someplace? Vienna? Where are you from, dear?
I can discern from this dribble that she's talking to me.
And
yes.
She's
roughly looking at you.
When she can
I address
all 4 of you.
I will address her with courtesy toward her station and tell her that yes, we are from Zurich.
Yes, a new country, so I understand.
Yes, we have formalized banking so that the world might be more civilized and share in the wealth that we deserve.
Her eye arches up a little bit, the one that's drawn on. She says, "Banking, is that your family business, darling?"
It is not far removed from our station. My father is in politics. My mother is deeply embroiled in preserving the balance of nature and magic.
Yes, it's thrilling.
She's drunk. She's not going to remember any of this tomorrow anyway.
Politicians.
Yeah.
Once she found out you weren't in banking and that you were in politics, you see her glass over and she loses interest and leaves actually a minute or two before it's polite to do so in the direction of the bar. Benny.
You use a mage hand to make sure that her petticoat catches on her shoe, and that she's got to stop and wrestle it loose.
Oh, she absolutely does, and there is immediately a footman there to assist her. She doesn't berate him, but she seems to be asking him what could possibly have happened because she's not processing how that could have taken place. Vanny, in the hallway, the footman is leading you. He hasn't said a word. He's about 10 feet out in front of you. As he opens, you pass through a couple of archways. He gestures to the right and he says, "That's the WC if you should need it on this floor, sir."
Noted.
And that's a good place to make a mental note of. He pushes open another pair of enormous double doors into an area that it looks like a library, a study. I'll give you a better description in a minute. And there is a crackling fire.
Is there anybody else in the room when I walk in?
There is.
Okay.
There's a couple of interesting things going on in here. Library and study. This place is masculine. Full walls of books. As a second-story book balcony reached by an iron spiral staircase. There's crackling hearth, a heavy desk, chairs, and a sofa. It smells of old paper and leather. There is a bar over at one side. On several of the walls are oil paintings of steamliners. You also pick up another interesting smell in here. It smells a lot like seawater. But there's a bit more to take in. You kind of get overwhelmed by it at first.
Seawater.
You see that the table, or the desk rather, is stacked with yellowing newspapers. And there are loose newspaper clippings on almost every surface in this room, even on some of the chairs. On the wall are framed black and white photos of people wearing clothing that's at least 20 years out of date, maybe 25. There is a illustration, or not an illustration, a photograph from the deck of a ship looking down at half a dozen lifeboats. There's a flotation ring hung on one wall that says RMS Titanic. In a glass case is an officer's uniform. You see there is, in another case, a child's doll missing one eye. There is a framed painting of the sinking. There is a scale model of the Titanic under glass against one wall. And there are framed headlines from New York newspapers of Bruce Ismay being demonized by the press as the survivor of the Titanic when he should have gone down with his ship.
Oh, son of a bitch.
A couple other things going on in here. There's a man sitting in a wheelchair facing the painting above the fireplace of the sinking. He looks to be in his mid to late 70s. He's all gray, has a huge beard. Looks like he hasn't had a haircut in a while. He's missing one leg at the knee. And there's a bowl of untouched oatmeal sitting on a table beside him. And he is slumped in the chair, and you hear him muttering. You can't quite make it out. And the only other people in here are a woman with two small children. She's in a white dress. They're in what looks like old-fashioned bedclothes, nightgowns for children. One looks like he's about 12 months. The little girl looks like she's about 2.5. And they're all standing over in a corner, holding hands, staring at Ismay in his wheelchair.
It's such weird. When I see all this paraphernalia, Banny immediately just has chills running up his spine. He knows exactly what's going on inside of not only this man's mind, but also in this environment. And he is just rigid with chills.
The footman has apparently seen this many, many times because he has no reaction other than to, please help yourself to the bar, sir, and steps backwards and closes the door. So you are alone in this strange and impressive study with a man in a wheelchair and the mother and two children over in the corner.
I am not going to pay attention to the man in the wheelchair just yet. I'm going to walk towards the woman with the two children in the corner first.
As you walk in that direction, the smell of seawater gets stronger. The temperature drops close to 20 degrees, and the woman and both children turn and walk through a wall.
I brace against a wall and I stop and just wait.
Ensign, escort me to an empty lifeboat.
Is that what he says?
That is what the man in the wheelchair bellows out. Must have more speed. Mumble, 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 mumble. Not my fault. Not my fault.
I turn and step in close to the man, and I kneel down, take one knee, and I look at his eyes.
So as you get that close to him, you smell, you're not sure if it's the medicine that he's being given or if it's just the smell of sickness, but this man is ill. As you look into those eyes are seeing something that is about 23 years old.
Looking around and knowing that I'm now alone, I am going to move forward and give the man a hug.
You step forward. As soon as you put a hand on him, he begins shrieking. Impossible! Impossible! She's unsinkable! Impossible! And then he starts muttering again.
I don't relent. I don't stop. I embrace the man.
The doors open to the study. Are you going to look to see who's coming through, or you're just in your embrace?
I am just going to embrace. If I do see the person like rushing to intercept or whatever else, I am going to put up a finger.
You hear a man say, I understand your intentions, but it won't do you any good, young man. And you see the colonel come walking in. He walks over to the bar.
It doesn't matter.
Pulls it open, starts looking underneath, pulls out a bottle. Are you a whiskey man or a cognac man?
Whiskey.
I've got a 1920 Old Forester, got a 115-year-old black pearl,
You could
and
give me a
have
well, and I'd be fine.
55-year-old single malt Teeling. What would you prefer?
I'll take the Teeling, but honestly, a well would do.
Teeling it is. He pours two fairly decent-sized tumblers, walks one over to you, and Ismay is, he actually hands it right across where his father is sitting to you, and the old man is just muttering. You can't make out what he's saying, but he's just staring at really nothing anymore.
This hurts my heart to know.
Yes.
No end. I'm sure that you've lived with this for your whole life, so
If it wasn't for what happened, I wouldn't be here at all. Right?
it's understood.
He walks over and he picks up some newspaper clippings off of a couple of leather chairs and he piles them up on a shelf along with a bunch of others. All the clippings are, Ismay, Doomed, How to Survive the Titanic, Be Like Bruce, Inquiry to be Held Today in Manhattan, Ismay to Face 1,500 Deaths. The press just absolutely shredded this guy. And from what you know of all your reading, a lot of the things that were said about him couldn't possibly have been known by anyone who didn't drown on the Titanic. So it's supposed inside knowledge by people who didn't make it. So there may have been a little bit of scapegoating going on. If you had a month or so to look through all the newspaper clippings, and you could probably put together quite a picture.
Yeah. Couldn't quite fix the man in the process, though.
Colonel drops down in a leather chair, crosses his ankles, sips at his 55-year-old scotch. He says, I promised you a cigar.
I'll take you up on that. I want to find an adjacent chair.
Yep, there's one right next to him. There's a small table in between, cut glass ashtray. He points and says, there's a humidor right next to that bloody ship. And he points to the scale model of Titanic. It's when it's still afloat.
Pristine, yes.
Yes.
I walk past it. What would you recommend?
The Partagas is good. The Upman 1844 Reserve is good. There's some Maduros in there.
I want something that doesn't taste like a drowned rat.
I think that there might be a Arturo Fuente or a Davidoff in there.
I'll look at those two. Take a smell. Find them in the humidor. Take a smell and see what I like. I want something mild, but something that has a nice crisp.
Davidoff will probably do it for you. Your worldly knowledge tells you that these are probably the best cigars that money can buy. And you've never even heard of a 55-year-old single malt that wasn't locked in a safe someplace. And this guy's just got the bottle sitting next to it.
Yeah, this is beyond anything. I look for a trimmer in the humidor.
Yep, there's a trimmer next to it.
Dock, and find the matches, and come and set my glass down next to the Colonel, and sit down next to him while I strike.
Did you bring him one, or did you just get one for you?
Oh, would you like one as well? Sorry,
Yes.
Pardon my manners.
What rank were you? Were you a colonel?
Here, would you like this one?
And bloody hell, yes, I want you to bring me one. You don't want me to go and get it for myself, do you, boyo? But you can tell that he's got good humor behind it.
I
You
go
bring
and
him a cigar, he fires it up with you, and you enjoy an amazing scotch and an amazing cigar sitting in the midst of all this weirdness. The seawater smell is gone. That faded. But you still got the old man muttering at the fireplace.
I'm gonna.
Blanca, you're with Constance. She finally rescues you from the ballroom and says it wasn't too terribly trying on you, was it, dear? Blanca, darling.
No, I'm sorry. It's been a long day, and you know how these things get.
Do you wish to retire?
No. I'm just gathering my second wind.
Do you wish to see Grandpapa to say hello?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've heard so much of. It would be nice to meet him.
Yes. And it completely flew past. And even if you'd said I've heard so much about him, she probably wouldn't realize that she's never once spoken about him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until you walk into the study that the last name of Ismay and shipping and etc. lands for you once you see everything around the life jacket in its glass case, the child's doll sitting in its own case, paintings and newspaper clippings and photographs of lifeboats and the ring. It's just a torment. And she's seen it so often that it doesn't even faze her. And she forgets that you've never seen it.
Well, and for me, it's more academic, right? We heard about it in school. I was too young for it to matter.
Right.
And so I'm exercising my scholastic application of, oh, this guy must be closely associated with it. He likes memorabilia from sunken ships. Wait.
Perfect. That's perfect, Blanca.
So I get a little bit excited because I do like nautical stuff. And
That's a strange hobby.
I draw a little closer thinking, I love the sea. He loves the sea. Let's have a conversation. Hopefully at some point it dawns on her that this is not a joyous room.
Probably all the scraps of newspaper clippings might be an indicator for you.
She's been in her mother's office before a mission. She knows what scraps look like.
You see the two men sitting in the chairs smoking and drinking, and in the moment you come in, the colonel is on his feet.
Look to see if Banny gets to his feet.
I'm going to take a little bit more time to get to my feet, but I will do the same.
I nod to Banny first to acknowledge that at least he's playing nice, and then give a deep bow to the colonel.
Now, what did we say about that? No more bowing. He gestures at his cigar. Shall I put it out?
A handsome man of your station should be honored at every turn.
Hogwash. Does this offend you? He's waving the cigar.
She is just fine with it. I've done this plenty of times with her.
I'll cross the room and take a look at what they're drinking and raise an eyebrow towards the colonel. May I?
By all means. And he goes and gets a glass for you and pours.
He
gives you a little.
Yeah. Well, considering the amount of vodka we've consumed on the ride. I probably am the hair of the dog today anyway, so.
I outdrink a sailor at this point.
Cup it in the fashion of the day and stay standing and let the gentleman recline and take in the view, the paintings, the clippings, and just kind of meander. Let Constance do what she does.
I still have a message on with Blanca. I am totally using it right now, and I'm going to say he was the captain of the Titanic, and he is being haunted by whatever happened there. I saw two ghosts when I walked in here. I am completely freaked out.
My back is to Banny, but he says I spilled this very expensive drink onto the floor. Not all of it, but tossed it in reaction to his statement.
Yeah.
Blanca, do a perception or I guess it would be a society.
Society 31.
Holy shit.
Whoa.
I'm a society girl.
It occurs to you, because you like nautical stuff, that the captain of the Titanic was E.G. Smith, and he went down with the Titanic. Bruce Ismay was the managing director of White Star, who saved his own ass by climbing into a lifeboat.
Mm. Bum, bum, bum.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't know my nautical history as well.
Well, it's a little overwhelming. You've been having some experiences since you got here.
I give a brief reply with the tiny bit of message that's left to inform Banny of the distinction of his situation, where he's not the captain. He's more the financier.
Oh, fuck.
He used his status to escape tragedy.
These people in their banks, stock markets, and goddamn money. Moving on.
That should end the spell.
Yeah.
I'll make my way back over to him and grip his hand in that comforting fashion and reapply the message spell.
Constance is over by the man in the wheelchair. She's crouched next to him. Grandpapa, my friend Blanca is here. Can you say hello? Can you say hello, Grandpapa? Not my fault. I never said that. I never said more speed. Bad newspapers. Damn liars.
And in the back of my head, suddenly everything crawls forward. He really is the reason this has all happened. And he's wearing it. It's weighing him down. I look to the colonel, tip my glass, sip it.
He drains his. He says, he puts it down. He puffs on his cigar and he says, it's late. I'm going to retire. Tomorrow, we'll tell some more stories.
Absolutely.
And
Hey,
drink a better scotch.
yeah. You know, Bjorn, the man that we came in with, he's somebody that I think we should add into this discussion because we both fought on the same side.
Someone other than the two of you?
Yes. We have two other, I guess you could say they're bodyguards for the miss here.
Yeah. Were you ill-informed about the safety of the tier?
Let's
now
just say
north, definitely, but here.
It's mostly about everybody needs a break, and she always comes with some servants. I look over at Blanca when I say that. So here we are on vacation, but you know how it is. A man of war doesn't know really how to relax. And this is probably the best place to relax.
How did you know to bring bodyguards?
No?
Did you bring your spurs?
What is that?
Did you bring your spurs?
No, but I don't need spurs to work on horse.
I'll loan you a pair of mine. Don't need spurs. Good show. Crush, crush, crush. I'll see you in the morning. Blanca, a pleasure. Kisses your hand. Makes his way out. As he's leaving, a nurse comes in. She curtsies to the both of you. Goes over, Mr. Ismay, it's time to retire, sir. Mumble, mumble, mumble.
Before he gets wheeled out, I'm going to talk to Blanca and say, through message, and say, check him. See if there's anything lingering on him, any sort of magical influence. Because there's definitely something here.
I'll do a detect magic, not expecting anything. I know phantoms, curses, and things of that like don't manifest in my vision, but I'll appease him.
You detect no magic on him. However, there's something that you did not notice before, and it's hung over the fireplace, but lower than the picture of the Titanic. Eyes go straight to the picture of the sinking. And most people miss the claymore that is hung on a pair of pegs. The pommel is wrapped in some kind of blue thread. It's gold and silver, and the blade is inscripted with runes. And that thing glows like the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center.
Turn to Banny and demur and nod towards the man in the wheelchair. When it's appropriate, I'll step back his direction and just gesture towards the mantle and say, "Artifact, relic."
Okay.
Nurse curses again and wheels Bruce Ismay out of the study.
This is 55 years old. This is older than me. I'm going to hold up the glass and shake the liquor around. 55 years old.
You see how much is on the floor, don't you? Thank you very much.
Why did you do that? I mean, come on. I expect you to be able to hold your liquor. I'm sorry.
Constance and I are hoping to catch up, but I think I've worn her out this evening. Well, maybe we'll have to wait till tomorrow.
She's here right now, correct?
Yes.
Oh. Hello, Constance. I didn't formally get to introduce myself. My name is Banny Elkind.
She gives you a polite nod.
You get
the feeling you're just really not much on her radar.
I'm just like
Banny, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a walk with Constance. I will see you in the morning at breakfast.
Absolutely. And I will let you know of anything that I run across while I'm doing my sitting in here and watching the walls melt.
I can't remember whether I finished giving him a message spell or not.
You did give me a message spell, so I do have one.
I go back and I reapply it anyway. And then leave with Constance.
The two of you step out of the library. Do you close the doors behind you?
Yes.
You close the doors behind you. Banny, make a perception, please.
Oh, sweet Jesus. 18? 18 and 15, that puts me well above 30. 33.
So you are alone in the quiet of the study.
Oh, my heart is just racing right now.
That's when you finally notice that there's grandfather clock in the corner. You didn't hear it ticking before because of all the fun. And now it's just ticking away in the silence of the library. It's kind of pleasant to be in here by yourself. You've got an amazing whiskey. You've got an amazing cigar. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, oh, it's so uncomfortable. I As soon as I finish the whiskey and I'm just walking around with the cigar, I'm going to be looking at relics. I'm going to be looking at the doll. And I'm going to be looking at different objects. And I'm waiting for that sea smell to show up again.
Every time I create a module, I tell myself, this time I'm going to number the pages. And every time I don't. But I'm closing it.
Heart is racing in this place. It's absolutely racing in this place. It's funny.
Annie, over the tick-tock of the clock, you hear a very high-pitched voice say, I can smell it, Barnabas. It's here, and if it's not put out for us, then who's it put out for? I'm going to find it no matter what. And that is when you see a man moving along the base of the wall opposite your chair, all of 8 inches tall, wearing an overcoat, a stovepipe top hat that's as tall as he is, little walking stick, little flask sticking out of his pocket. And following him is a bulldog about as big as he is, wearing a bowler and carrying a tiny little lantern in its mouth. And this tiny little man's nose is almost as long as his arm. He's just crutching along with his stick. It's here, it's here. He stops and he turns and he looks at where Blanca spilled her whiskey. Here we are. Now we're on. Come on, Barnabas, come on. And this tiny little man crosses the room, followed by the bulldog. And you're just sitting there,
just
quietly smoking, watching. He gets over to the spilled whiskey and drops to his knees, pulls out his flask, and starts scooping it up. Maybe a thimbleful is enough to fill his flask.
I am going to lean forward and put the glass with just a little bit left next to him.
On the floor?
Yeah.
The dog lets out a tiny little yelp, runs in a circle, and proceeds to pee on itself. And the little man jumps, drops his walking stick, his top hat falls off, and when it does, 3 silver quin go rolling out of it. He's just as bald as can be, except for a little bit of fringe of hair, and he is standing there in this puddle of whiskey, looking up at you and trembling. Oh dear, we're done for. We're done for, Barnabas.
No, you aren't.
You're a good dog.
You're just fine.
Do it quickly, please. He covers his eyes with one hand.
Do you want
Sips
more
from
whiskey?
his flask. Do it quickly. Not too quickly.
Do you want more? I have plenty right here. And I tip the glass towards him. How many flasks do you have?
He just does not know what to say to you. He's looking at you. He picks up his hat, puts the coins back inside of it, puts it on his head, picks up his walking stick. The bulldog is like pushing up against him for comfort, almost knocking him over. And again, he's this tall, maybe.
So I know your dog's name is Barnabas. What is your name?
Will you use it against me?
I have no intent to do such.
Bixby?
Bixby. Well met. My name is Banny. Did you want some of this liquor?
Benny, Bixby, and Barnabas.
See? All B names.
As you are looking at him, you see that he has tails to go with his overcoat. He has buckled shoes. And he has a scarf tied around his neck. He's just as quaint as can be. You have no idea how old he is. He could be 50. He could be 550.
I take a draw again on that, lighting up a nice cherry as I do it. And I don't blow it on him, I blow it off to the side.
You're not from Mangatia, are you?
No, I'm not. Why would you ask?
Why are you here at Drachenfels?
I was invited. I'm not sure I'm welcome.
I wish I was.
You want to be invited to this place?
Are you going to step on me?
No.
Are you going to gulp eat me?
No, not that kind of giant.
You're not a giant. I've seen giants. You're not a giant.
Oh, you give me so little credit. I feel like I am a giant in this case.
You're not a giant, and you're not manganese. Who are you?
Manganese is just another form of human from somewhere else.
Scowl. Looks over and starts scratching his tiny little dog.
Can you tell me who you are? What are you, Mr. Bixby?
Well, I'm a Cornish knocker.
Knocker.
Huh?
I only speak a little bit of Cornish, so you'll have to forgive me.
Well, whatever he's speaking, it's coming to you as if it's your native tongue.
Wow. But it doesn't seem to affect me here. So what are you doing here besides looking for lovely? This is the best whiskey I've had.
Oh, his eyes get wide. It looks like his instincts are to haul ass, but the whiskey is what kind of keeps him leaning forward on his toes, almost like past the tipping point.
You have any other vessels to hold this? Because I'll pour a little bit more out right here if you'd like, or you can take it directly from the well. You don't, it doesn't have to touch the floor.
You're not going to hurt me.
I deal with the odd and strange, and you by far are one of the most strange things I've seen. I don't
know if that's a compliment or an insult. I will have to think about that.
You can take it as an insult.
Think about it over a drink.
How about we both have a drink together?
Yes. Do you set the glass down on the floor?
I even tip it towards him so he can reach inside of it.
He reaches inside and submerges his tiny little flask. It lets out like 2 bubbles and it's full. He pulls it out. The dog starts licking the whiskey off of his arm.
I Everybody's a fan of whiskey. 55 years old, I've heard. How old are you?
Old enough not to get caught.
I think that's
It's
a
the
lie.
drink, you know.
By all
It
means.
befuddles me. Wasn't there a girl here?
There was.
What's
There
her
were
name?
2 girls, even. One is Constance and the other's Blanca.
Oh, I know Constance.
Oh.
But the other one, Blanca, you say?
Yes,
Oh, new.
Blanca.
Who's the big fellow with the beard?
Is Bjorn.
Bjorn. What a wonderful name. Bjorn. 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 Bjorn.
Careful with him.
And the woman that was with him, the one that seems angry.
I don't think she has a name. She tells me
I
something.
will call her the woman who seems angry. Bjorn, 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 Bjorn.
That's a game. Good name.
He says, I'm empty.
Tip it again.
He fills it again.
One moment, I put my cigar down. I stand up, and
He backs up.
I walk past him, and I go over to where the 55-year-old is sitting on the shelf, and I tip in, and then I look back where I'm standing, and I walk back to my seat, sit down. Cheers.
He's not there anymore. He's not on the floor. He's on the little table next to you, next to the cigar, and he's taking a drag off of the tip.
Does that work for you?
Ah.
This is amazing, isn't it?
That I'm having a conversation with you and I'm not being eaten. Yes, it is amazing. I shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be talking.
So tell me why
It breaks
that is.
all the rules. All the rules.
What rules are there?
How did it get empty again?
I tip it towards him again.
I need a bigger flask.
Yes, you do.
Doesn't look like he could handle a bigger flask.
Cheers. I hold my glass out and see if he taps it.
Cheers. Think.
So you are a Cornish knocker.
I am.
What do you do?
What do I do? What do you mean?
Do you have a job? Knocker sounds like a job.
It is, but I've moved up.
Oh.
Not in the mines anymore. Nope, 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 nope. Not me. Now I'm in shoes.
And what do you
And sew on buttons.
Do you collect and gather these things, or do you use them for yourself? Do you make them yourself?
Do I make what myself?
Buttons, shoes?
No. I mend shoes. I polish shoes. I sew on buttons. I stitch up rips. Sometimes I do dishes.
For who?
The
Yourself?
people of the house.
They have servants for that.
Posh. What they don't have is cats, and that's a good thing.
I have not noticed any cats, so yes, you're correct.
Oh, if there were cats, we wouldn't be here.
I'll make sure to take a note of that. And never have cats.
Never ever have cats or foxes. They're worse.
I hunt foxes, if that helps.
You mustn't.
Oh, I mustn't?
You will anger her. Oh dear, don't even say it again. Don't say that you hunt foxes. Just don't keep them, but don't hunt them.
Okay, but speak clearly when you say who is her.
Maeve.
Maeve?
Maeve.
She is the one who protects the foxes, I assume.
Yes.
Is she in this forest?
Are you sure you're not just a big fae?
I am just like all the denizens of this house, except that I have knowledge that allows me to speak to you without being beyond my wits.
That sounds like a pile of codswallop.
It probably is.
What makes you so special?
A little bit of this, and a little bit of understanding of things beyond me. Do you need more?
He's holding his flask. He fills it again. Well, very well. Then by the rules, you've caught me. So I must grant you 3 wishes. Don't grant wishes.
Why would you?
But I will give you 3 of something.
What would you be able to offer me that I don't already have?
Knowledge.
That is true. 3. So let's talk.
Don't go catching me again to get 3 more.
I put down the glass and I lean forward and I look at him. And I say, Constance is haunted.
He leans forward too.
I've got your attention.
You've got a big face.
When I get closer, it's even bigger.
Good roll.
I have... so I'm here for the girl Constance. She is haunted by dreams. And those dreams seem nefarious and scary and maybe of a dark origin, and I need to understand what those are.
Are you confused? Hyacinth has the dreams. Constance has a problem.
Is that an answer? Of my 3?
You didn't ask a question.
I guess I didn't. Hyacinth. Is Hyacinth... I'm not going to ask that question. That's interesting to know. I watched 3 people. A woman.
3 is a powerful number.
It really is, and I don't understand why wishes and answers come in 3s, personally. But I watched 3 people, a woman and 2 children, walk through the wall of this place. This man is haunted, and is this of his own doing? That's a question.
Is what of his own doing?
His haunting. These people who gather around him and watch him as he flails about in this attempt to try and to dismiss blame.
I'm very disappointed in you, Mr. Elkwind.
Close.
That you would waste a question on something like that.
Well, do you want me to be able to pull that back and so I can hold it for something else? Honestly,
pull it back. May as well try to pull Maddock back now that he's planted his flag. But the question is, did he do this to himself, this haunting?
Yes.
Well, what I say to you is that whatever he did, he's being blamed for. And whatever is haunting him blames him for it. 2.
Okay. Because, yeah, I feel for the man because honestly, it should not be a weight for him to bear. But it sounds like he is bearing his own weight. 2 questions. Hyacinth is being haunted. What is in?
I didn't say Hyacinth is being haunted.
Okay,
For a
Hyacinth is.
person with such big ears, you don't listen.
I can get closer with my ears. Let's say this. Hyacinth has. Let me ask you this. What is in the box?
We mustn't speak of the box. He pulls a tiny little pocket watch out. Oh dear. Is it that late?
Hey, don't lose focus. You're with me now. 2 questions. You don't have to tell me what's in the box, but how to avoid the box. It sounds like something I should avoid.
Don't open the box.
Don't open the box. I already got that answer.
Then you've wasted one.
You're so not helping. Is there anybody with nefarious intent in this place towards myself, my companions, Blanca? You have that answer.
Oh, yes. I must be off. Next time, you can call upon me at my home. Come, Barnabas.
Can I ask where your home is before you go?
You have to catch me again and make me tell you.
Just know that I have the bottle of liquor. I am going to take that off the shelf, cap it, and I'm going to stick it in my satchel.
He watches you as he disappears under a piece of furniture with the bulldog, not to come out the other side. Blanca, you are walking the halls with Constance, and she's got a death grip on your arm, and she tells you that she hates nighttime. This drafty old pile is so quiet all the time, and it always feels like someone is watching, but nighttime is worse. I'm so afraid to go to sleep.
Is this what vexes you? The nighttime? Or is there something in it?
It's what's in the nighttime, but it's other things. I wrote of them.
Yeah.
It's the watching when I go for a ride in the woods. It's Abigail. She watches me, and it's not normal.
Abigail is a member of the staff?
No, Abigail is Victoria's daughter. She's 2. Oh, you'll meet her in the morning. Victoria has 3 little beasts.
She doesn't seem to greet them kindly or care for their welfare. Is there a reason for that?
She doesn't enjoy motherhood. She says it ravaged her body and her social life.
Well, it seems like she's done enough harm to herself that the children are barely an impact on that.
Just marrying Prescott was enough.
He must
How
have
could you
great
do
wealth.
that to yourself? I want to marry for love.
Certainly you have suitors that you must use your security to fend off.
Yes, but I'm missing the cotillion season at home. I'm stuck here in dirty old Turland.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes, Mother sent us to summer here, me and Lyle, because Father is so ill. We have to be here until Labor Day.
You'll miss the entire season.
Yes. She says next season will be better, but I shan't survive till next season.
Surely you exaggerate.
I fear I will die of grief and boredom and a broken heart.
We've had so much fun and mischief. I'm here now. I think boredom has escaped you.
Oh, and I'm so very happy that you are. She pulls on your arm.
I know we have a lot of catching up to do. I'm hoping my friends are settled. I really would like some time to catch up.
Do a perception.
21.
As you're chit-chatting, you're looking at her, but you can't help but look past her because you pass a fairly bizarre-looking suit of armor. You're not a historian, so they all look kind of ridiculous to you. But what you notice is that almost out of sight, down by the armor's left foot, is a tiny saucer of milk and 2 shiny buttons sitting on the floor. And you haven't seen a cat.
Get Constance to pause briefly, make some excuse to adjust my clothing or whatever, and take a moment to try to take in the scenery and understand it more. I don't want to ask her about it just yet. It doesn't look like there's any opening or passage that this gives. This is a beckoning item for. It's just placed out in the hall.
It's tucked away almost out of sight behind the foot of the armor. Just a tiny little saucer of, you're assuming it's milk, and a couple of shiny little brass buttons sitting next to it. It looks very out of place in such a tidily kept house with so many servants.
Do you have pets, Constance?
Oh, I have Natasha, my pug, but she's back at home. I didn't want to expose both of us to this drudgery. Can you just imagine having to summer the entire summer in this wretched, foul place?
Oh. Yes, I'm sure the echo alone is haunting.
Don't even use those words. I'm frightened enough as it is.
Start to move forward again, but kick the milk so that it spills, and then glance down and point it out to her.
She's absolutely not perceptive enough to see that that was done on purpose. She goes, "Oh, again? Is it cream or is it milk this time? It's always something different."
I'm so sorry. I didn't even see it there. What is that?
It's these superstitious tur. You know that the entire staff is tur. Mm-hmm. Did you know that? Yes.
I imagine, yes.
The only Icenians in the house are us. But the whole staff is tur. The groundskeepers are tur. Everyone here is a bloody tur.
Is this some kind of warding or ceremony or spell?
The tur are so superstitious. They believe that there are little people that hide in the walls, and if you leave treats for them and don't keep cats, they'll come and do little chores for you, little bits of housework.
What are the buttons?
Laundry and making pies. Ridiculous.
What are the buttons for?
Apparently they're attracted to them, that the little people like the shiny things. Sometimes it's coins. Sometimes it's a spool of bright-colored thread. And it's not my place to tell these dirty tur to put their pagan beliefs away and stop cluttering up the halls.
Yes, I would say recommend to your staff to clean this up, but they're the ones who placed it, so what am I to say?
I actually caught one of the maids putting a sewing needle under a pillow in a guest room. Can you imagine? When I confronted her about it, she said that it keeps away bad dreams.
Barbaric.
Rubbish. Grandmama says that the whole nonsense is rubbish and that the tur got exactly what they had coming from the queen.
Yes, I'm sure they feel that way. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make a mess here. Perhaps we should move along.
Yes. I must tell you, I am so afraid. Will you sleep in my room tonight?
And of course, yes. We're roommates. Or at least we were.
Oh, she just beams at you. She says, and don't listen to the term. They will fill your head with nonsense about magical creatures that live under hills and good and evil constantly at war with each other, and evil trying to take over the mortal world and bring the apocalypse, and women with butterfly wings, and you could fill books with it, as if she doesn't realize that books have been filled.
We studied this at university. Well, for the semester I was there. Don't you remember our studies in folklore?
I'll let you in on a secret. I had Nancy Selminster do all of my reading and my homework for me.
And where is she today?
I got A's. I don't know.
Prime Minister? It's the best education she never paid for.
That's right. Lori Laughlin. What? He says, you know how boring school was.
Well, are they bringing my luggage to your room? I'm a mess from the road, and I must freshen.
I will absolutely find someone to bring your luggage to my room. Yes, yes.
I can wait for you there if you could show me the way.
Wait here. I'll find a footman to bring the luggage. And with a swirl of chiffon, she whirls away and disappears down the hall like a big floaty pink ghost. And you are alone in the hallway.
I was hoping to get to her room for an inspection without her, but I'll wait here in the hall. We're on a gallery overlooking the lower level, or
you are at the head of the main stairs, right outside the reception ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
The study is back behind you. In front of you are the stairs that go down to the entrance, or more carpeted stairs that go up. You haven't heard of any bedrooms on this floor, but you really have only seen a couple rooms in the mansion.
I'll dial in for Banny. I just had a strange encounter with Constance. She said the staff here was placing bowls of liquid, milk or cream or something out, and buttons to lure in little people. Remember in the invitation she talked about this tiny man that was haunting her? Does that make any sense to you?
I just spoke with a tiny man, and he said that this staff has ill intent towards us. Not the staff, but there is danger here. And yes, there are tiny people. I don't know what to say about this otherwise. We should talk in the morning.
That's all I have to say about that.
What an interesting night this is going to be.
Blanca returns. She tells you that she said Patrick will be relocating your luggage over to her bedroom, and that she is on the second floor. She doesn't seem concerned or even aware that there are other people with you who may need bedroom arrangements or be notified of them. It's just not on her radar. Nobody's told you where your room is, Banny, but you're starting to feel, as you drink 55-year-old scotch, that maybe this leather chair will do just fine.
I probably will fall asleep in here. haunted by the ghosts of whatever's around me. But
Yes.
I do
By
have.
all means, fall asleep in the haunted library. Good.
I take the 55-year-old scotch and I put it in the satchel so that I have it for later. And I'll probably blissfully conk.
Yeah, you will. You'll absolutely pass out there. Blanca, she takes you up to her bedroom on the 3rd floor. Do a perception.
20.
20. You notice that tucked behind a potted plant on the 3rd floor is what looks like a ring, and your background tells you immediately that it's cheap paste, painted metal, but it's shiny. Looks like it's probably worthless. You could buy it for pennies out on the street, but it's just sitting behind this potted plant.
Under their appeasement for these tier staff.
She takes you to her room. She opens the doors, but then steps to the side so that if anything were there, you would get the full brunt of it. Doesn't realize how rude that was. She peeks around the side. Is there anything in there?
I'll take a look. You stay with me. Stay close.
And she does, like wearing a second shirt. You walk around the large bedroom of a over-pampered debutante with too many clothes and not enough IQ points. It's the best of everything in here, and it's perfumes and makeup and mirrors and more mirrors. Great big canopy bed. Everything is still in pink. There are a lot of vestiges of childhood still in the room that haven't been purged yet. So it's really an in-between room. It's not quite a woman's room yet. But no creatures that you can see.
I will pat the bed and tell her it's safe and to get comfortable.
She jumps on the bed like a teenager. Rolls around.
I'll throw up the skirting of the bed for one last check, maybe just to give her a little nudge of fear.
You were hoping that it would just be a little peek.
Uh-huh.
But when you peeked, there's something under the center of the bed. It looks like a pot, like a kitchen pot.
More of this pagan stuff. Lift it up and let my eyes adjust and take a look at what it is.
That's when the smell starts to hit you, and it's foul. Whatever is in that pot stinks.
I can't sleep with that. I don't care what it's for, what its purpose is. I will get on my belly and slide under till I can reach it, and then pedal backwards, being careful not to spill it. I'm certain there are liquid contents, and I don't want to wear it.
You pull it out. You're happy to see that it's not liquid contents. You're not happy to see that it's a pot probably about that big around, not very deep, and there is a pile of feces in the pot that is covered in tiny little hairs, like in the feces, on the feces, and it's gray, and it's just the most revolting smell you've ever experienced.
Swallow against the rising bile.
Constant squeals. What is that?
Don't answer her. Take it towards the door and slide it into the hallway, far enough distance that we won't smell it. A quick gesture to make sure it's not enchanted in any way.
Nope.
Close the doors. Latch them. That's unpleasant.
What was it? Well, it was under my bed. What was it?
Get changed.
I shan't sleep a wink.
Well, I'm here now. I will pantomime some of the protection spells that I learned early on that are of zero consequence, as to kind of ward off her fears, and drape the door with gestures, go to the fireplace, across the
She
bottom of
doesn't
the
know
bed,
any different.
and just use a little tiny bit of prestidigitation to throw some sparkling confetti to finish the effect.
She seems quite a bit more relieved, to the point where she tries to start a pillow fight with you, as if you were 14 again.
I will avoid that childish notion and turn her towards the nightshirt closet and ask her if I can borrow one.
Indeed, she comes out with something frilly and pink, just like she's wearing.
Yep. I'll make sure we are identically dressed.
Okay. You throw on your frilly pink nightgown, dial the lights down. Are you going to climb into bed with her?
Yep.
You both climb into bed, and we've all had little kids. We know that they're like jungle birds. Right before they go to sleep, they're loudest and talking, and then they're done. And that's how she is. She talks and talks and talks about mind-numbing trivialities sprinkled with her fear. Everything seems to be about her.
I really debate trading out a spell in exchange for sleep to get her to go to sleep. But before I have time to do so, it sounds like she drifts off.
Yeah, she passes out before you have to pull the trigger on that. So we will leave you tonight with Banny sleeping in a haunted library.
Me sleeping with a haunted teenager.
And you sleeping with a haunted teenager while God knows what goes on in the rest of the house.